What if the biggest XRP skeptic just threw gasoline on the wildest priced rumor this year? And what if the fire that he lit burns in the opposite direction than you would expect? Now, I was minding my own business, scrolling X, when a tweet from Jason Williams, the Bitcoin maxi who usually treats altcoins like uninvited party guests, jumped out at me. Now, he says, XRP is going to 20,000 per coin. Now, my first reaction was, this is classic crypto Twitter, thunderbolt to the brain. Then I nearly kind of choked on my espresso. 20,000 bucks, right, per XRP. Now that's kind of like turning the office coffee fund into a private island overnight. But hold up, because crypto veterans know that devil lies and lives in the replies. So I dove in. 10 seconds later, reality kind of smacked me with the force of a rogue wave. Williams wasn't predicting a moonshot. He was mocking the idea by comparing 20,000 Lebanese pounds to, brace yourself, 22 US cents. Yep. Our big Bitcoin author basically said XRP could sink so low that it would measure up to a hyperinflated currency. So picture buying a Lambo, but the engine's made of rubber bands. Ouch. Now, I'm no stranger to bold calls, right? We've all kind of seen the XRP to $10,000 theories floating around like confetti at a bull run parade. In fact, game developer Chad lit the fuse back in 2022 with his $20,000 XRP thesis that we covered the other week. Now, global banks stockpiling XRP for, well, cross-border settlements, supply squeezed tighter than your jeans after Thanksgiving, and retail traders left scrambling for the last crumbs. It sounds like Willy Wonka meets Wall Street, right? People either kind of grabbed the popcorn or pulled out the torches. So Williams kind of lobbed his sarcastic grenade. I thought, okay, let's test the temperature of this fire. So I called up my buddy Mark, the one who still swears Dogecoin will fund his beach house, and I asked, if XRP hits 20 grand, what would its market cap be? And of course, Mark crunches numbers faster than toddlers kind of crush snacks. And 2 keystrokes later, he blurts out quadrillions, dude, as in more than all global assets combined. Suddenly, the $20,000 dream kind of felt like trying to stuff an elephant into a suitcase. But let's be fair. Crypto history is littered with impossible milestones eventually actually happening. And we all know that market cap is, well, just a bit of a fairy tale. Right, you've got to remember that when one Bitcoin equaling a single US dollar, it sounded as crazy as, well, let's say pineapple on a pizza. And it's exactly right. So instead of kind of dismissing Williams' kind of jab overnight, I decided to unpack, well, the nuts and the bolts. That's nults from my brain this early in the morning. And, you know, what would have at least have to align, I guess, the planets during a total eclipse for XRP to hit $20,000 or to crash to 22 cents. So the first stop here is going to be total supply. XRP is not like Bitcoin's 21 million limit. We're talking 100 billion tokens, give or take, right? That's a lot of tokens fighting for, well, elbow room. Now, the theory relies on most of that supply kind of hiding away in private ledgers, leaving very fewer kind of coins, at least fewer than the 100 million XRP, kind of sloshing around on public exchanges. So imagine an entire kind of Costco warehouse suddenly reducing to a single snack aisle, right? Prices would, well, skyrocket. Now, but, you know, can institutions realistically vault away that much liquidity without sparking regulatory sirens? That's the question. Second stop then is demand, right? Cross-border settlements has been Ripple's bread and butter pitch for years, promising to sink kind of wire transfer fees from whale size to guppy size. Now, if big banks do indeed jump on, demand could, emphasis on could, pump harder than your kind of playlist at leg day. Yet, regulatory clarity remains murkier than a mystery soup. Now, the ongoing Ripple versus SEC saga kind of feels like binge watching a courtroom drama where each episode ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. Now, you can't exactly flip the switch on global finance while regulators still argue over a few definitions. The third pit stop then is purchasing power, right? Williams' Lebanese pounds comparison was pretty savage, but it kind of raises a much bigger point here. Value is always relative, right? And if XRP stays flat in dollars, but the dollar itself deflates like a kind of punctured beach ball, well, you could technically see 20,000, for XRP, just, denominated in some kind of wobbly currency no one wants in their wallet, right? Numbers alone don't actually paint the picture. It's the context that we all kind of glance over, which actually means absolutely everything. So here is where it gets a little personal. Last summer, I kind of wired some money overseas for a freelance gig. Now, my bank kind of took 4 days, at least I took a 4-day nap, I should say, and they charged me fees that could have funded a family road trip. So if Ripple's tech slashes that pain to seconds and pennies, well, I'd happily raise my hand. Multiply my story by millions of small businesses and migrant workers, and you've got an ocean of potential demand. But does that ocean translate to a $20,000 tidal wave? Or is it merely a healthy swell that still respects gravity? So I hit up our free educational Discord server, which, by the way, guys, you can join through the link that is in the description to kind of crowdsource some opinions. Now, the chat blew up faster than meme tokens in 2023 and 24, of course. Some folks, they argued that Williams' sarcasm was actually bullish because every viral jab keeps XRP in the spotlight. Others kind of said that the tweet will scare new investors faster than a horror movie jump scare. My takeaway is that sentiment is a trampoline. You can bounce up or smash down depending on the timing and the way. And of course, we have to appreciate a good old maxi every now and again. So while the debate kind of raged, I decided to peek under the hood of institutional adoption numbers. Now, according to Ripple's Q2 report, transaction volume in their ODL corridors grew by triple-digit percentages year over year. It's impressive, but let's kind of temper our excitement just a bit. Starting at kind of the low-based marks or makes any kind of jump look like a kind of pole vault, right? So context, again, being key. Meanwhile, of course, Swift still moves trillions daily. Now, Ripple's got miles to go before it sleeps or before XRP soars. Now, halfway through our kind of drafting of this video, I kind of caught myself spiraling into price prediction la la land. And that's kind of when I slammed on the brakes and I reminded future me and present you of the golden rule. And this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies, of course, are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and today's video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Whew. Well, now that's the legal kind of ninja stars out of the way. Let's get back to the story. So where were we? Right. By this point, my brain kind of felt like a blender on max speed. So I fired up Kraken Pro. Full disclosure, of course, the Kraken Pro link in the description is an affiliate link that helps keep this channel's lights on so that you can keep shopping for at least battle-tested exchanges with, well, slick charts. Feel free to give it a whirl. Anyway, I kind of pulled up the XRP order book and spotted something rather interesting. Despite the Twitter drama, liquidity looked as sturdy as a gym bro on pre-workout. No mass exodus, no panic dumping. And that kind of calmed my nerves more than a double scoop of ice cream on a dog day afternoon. Next, I modeled a few different scenarios. No fancy spreadsheets, of course, just back-of-the-napkin math. Now, if XRP snagged even 5% of global remittance flows, it's around $35 billion annually, well, at today's kind of circulating supply, that would nudge the price north of $10. Pretty respectable, but galaxies away from $20,000. So to climb higher, we would need a perfect storm. Institutional hoarding, retail FOMO, regulatory green lights, and perhaps a sprinkle of global fiat devaluation. Basically, the Avengers assembling during a solar eclipse. It's rare, but it's not impossible. And that is when a light bulb flicked on. Maybe Williams's kind of 20,000 jab is actually a bit of a gift. It forces us to zoom out and ask much better questions. Instead of, will XRP hit an arbitrary moon number? How about what measurable milestones would justify at least a seriously higher price? And let's kind of think transaction volume doubling every quarter, or a Fortune 100 bank publicly shilling RippleNet, or developed nation kind of regulators issuing the crypto equivalent of a Michelin star. And so I kind of thought back to the .com era, right? Amazon's stock once crashed 95% before transforming into the e-commerce Death Star that we know today. Now, early investors who survived the roller coaster are still laughing in beachfront mansions. But for every Amazon, there will be pets.com. Right? Picking winners isn't just about blue sky vision. It's about execution, adaptability, and timing. And speaking of timing, right, Chad's theory kind of banks on a supply shock triggered by private ledgers absorbing XRP faster than a sponge in a puddle. So let's kind of entertain that idea. Picture Saudi Arabia deciding to tokenize oil settlements on RippleNet. Suddenly, trillions of, petrodollars swirls through XRPL pipes. Ripple's supply dries up quicker than a puddle in, Dubai summer. Prices, of course, they could, emphasis on could, leapfrog the logic. But tokenizing entire industries isn't like flipping pancakes. You've got legal, technical, and geopolitical hurdles the size of Everest. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's halving cycles keeps kind of strumming their kind of predictable rhythm. However, and I've been through this many times before, that the cycle for Bitcoin has broken. There are three fundamental things that happened with BTC in 2022 and 2023 that simply changed the path that Bitcoin is now running on. A lot of people are overlooking these, but if you want to know more about them, you should probably join us in that free Discord server. Anyway, Ethereum's staking yields, they lure yield hunters, and new layer, 2's kind of darling pop-ups, every single month. Now, XRP's narrative, it must slice through a lot of that noise like a hot knife through butter. Jokes and sarcasm aside, of course, value kind of accrues where technology meets utility meets kind of storytelling. Hence the video. And the louder that our community kind of debates these wild numbers, whether it's $20,000 or 20,000 Lebanese pounds, the more eyeballs that we actually attract. Now, publicity, even negative, can be rocket fuel if harnessed the right way. Okay, it's confession time. Earlier this year, when Bitcoin cracked past 100K again, and headlines kind of screamed mega bubble, I kind of felt deja vu. Friends who'd never kind of uttered the word blockchain suddenly asked me which coin would triple next. And I remember a lot of analysts on YouTube, saying that Bitcoin wouldn't have a new all-time high in 2025. Yet here we are with new all-time highs only really a few weeks ago. Now, of course, I told these guys scrounging for some hints and some tips, and I'll tell them the same thing that I'm going to be telling you right now. Hype is a sugar rush, and utility is the marathon mill. XRP's real moonshot is at kind of greatness, and it isn't, in kind of memeing itself to $20,000. It's actually in solving tangible pain points, slow, expensive payments, and doing it better than, well, anyone else. Still, let's not pretend that tweets don't matter, right? Social sentiment indicators often kind of front-run price movements. A single celebrity endorsement can inject more adrenaline than a triple espresso. So by mocking XRP, Jason Williams unwittingly actually amplified its signal. He tossed a rock and the ripple, pun fully intended, spreads. Now, whether that wave kind of lifts boats or flips them depends on how the community responds. But, you know, Bitcoin maxis be Bitcoin maxis, and at some point, they're going to realize that they were wrong. Now, I've wrapped up my research by kind of revisiting that infamous picture that Williams posted, 20,000 Lebanese pounds equals 22 cents, and it hit me. Value dilution is a legitimate fear across all fiat currencies, right? Inflation alone can make millionaires feel like middle class overnight. And in that sense, any asset with a capped or predictable supply, that's from Bitcoin all the way to XRP, becomes attractive insurance. So maybe Williams's snark remark, accidentally underscores the very reason that people hedge with crypto in the first place. Now, before my brain melted completely, I jotted down 3 checkpoints that I'll be watching in the coming months. The first one is the resolution, or at least a major kind of strides in the Ripple's legal saga. A clear regulatory lane could invite much bigger players. Second thing is signups on the ODL corridors. No fluff, just hard transaction data proving real-world traction. 3 is exchange liquidity flows. If we see supply draining like bathwater, you should probably buckle up. 4, whether, actually, I know there isn't a 4. Let's just go straight to kind of a bit of a summary here. Is whether XRP ends up in as a kind of Ferrari or a fixer-upper, right? The markets will steer my conviction more than any potential tweet, bullish or bearish. And if you want to kind of dissect all of those numbers in real time, you should probably swing by our Discord. The link is waiting in the description. And the debates there are spicier than a kind of jalapeno burrito. All right, let's land this plane. Jason Williams dropped a sarcastic bombshell by saying XRP is going to 20,000. Now on the surface, it kind of poked fun at the moon math, but peel back the layers and you find a masterclass in perspective, right? Price targets without any context are as useful as a chocolate teapot. And I think that is what Jason's been using to pour his tea recently. Now, the real question isn't whether XRP hits an astronomical figure. It's whether the tech can survive or maybe even carve out, say, kind of pivotal role in tomorrow's financial machine. Now, if Ripple nails that, lofty numbers will take care of themselves, of course. If not, well, at least we'll have a front row seat to one heck of a spectacle. So, if you've enjoyed this deep dive into crypto theater, equal parts analysis and popcorn, then smash that subscribe button so that YouTube knows that you prefer your news with a dash of storytelling. And yes, check out Kraken Pro through the affiliate link down below if you're hunting for a pro-grade trading cockpit that keeps this channel caffeinated. And I'll catch you in the next video.